The backrooms are places outside of ordinary space and time, places which the average person should never be able to visit. Today we'll be discussing an incredible new short film by Kane Pixels called The Backrooms, and I'll also be giving context and explaining what's really happening, the story and the lore behind Backrooms, and more. All of that in today's video. Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another video. A little bit different today, but if you guys like content like this, I've covered, for example, the SCP Foundation in the past, let me know and I'll be sure to continue to integrate it into my normal upload schedule. So let's talk about the Backrooms before examining this phenomenal new short film. This is going to be quite a process as I'm going to explain Backrooms and Liminal Spaces, so if you're familiar with these concepts and don't want a retread, I'll put a timestamp up to where I'm talking about the short film. The idea of the Backrooms first came from 4chan, and specifically a very short post on X, which I'll read in its entirety. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard you. As you can probably tell by that brief post, the back rooms are described as sort of an adjacent reality to our own. No clip in the context of the post is in reference to video games, where you can sometimes make it through walls or other obstacles you're not meant to and end up in weird places never meant for the player. Backrooms are tied very closely with the idea of liminal space. Liminal generally refers to the process of transition, and specifically the idea of a threshold. Now, the transition can mean a personal change, but it can also mean the point where our perception becomes limited. Think of a boundary or a border space. Often, liminality, when used in psychology or sociology, is closely tied to feelings of, well, disorientation. I'll get to liminal spaces in a second because that's what this is really about, but the idea of liminality is very interesting on its own and helps understand the feelings that you might have when looking at some of the pictures we'll discuss in a second. For example, think about how strange it feels on the day of graduation or the night of prom when you're on that threshold of leaving a major point in your life, or that feeling when you know you're going to see someone for the last time, or the feeling of witnessing a major event, like if you were old enough for 9/11. Liminal spaces are meant to be a physical representation of this idea of transition, oftentimes emptiness, abandonedness, something very distinct from creepy, at least when done properly. Now, given how popular liminal spaces are on the internet, this can be done to various effectiveness, but the best liminal spaces mix the unsettling with the familiar, and at least as I experience them, often call back in some strange way to childhood. And to me, it's not really surprising. If you Google images of liminal spaces, you will see lots of strange or new elements that are introduced in childhood, but that feel definitely a little weird, outside your normal comfort zone. Hotels, for example, hotel pools. A fairly common experience for a child, but one that takes you outside of your home and also, I think, your comfort level. You also have schools or malls at night, places that normally have one feeling transitioning to something completely different and new when people aren't there. And some of it is just also hard to explain, but there does seem to be a sort of understanding of what a liminal space should feel like, even if it's somewhat hard to describe. I think, strangely enough, really good examples of liminal spaces can be found in the original Halo game. That's both multiplayer and single player. I might talk about this in the future because I find it very interesting, but Halo single player has a very strange feel to it, especially in its quieter moments. It can genuinely be a little unsettling, and I think that's partially because you're on this massive structure with almost nonsense geometry, but it is in this weird transition state. It's ancient, it's empty, its original caretakers are gone, it's very ambient with the massive skyboxes and whatnot. It just feels like you're somewhere off. I think that feeling can also be found if you play multiplayer, especially without anybody else, and just walk around the maps. It's definitely a strange experience, but let's get back to the idea of the Backrooms and talk about the actual short film that we'll be discussing today. So the Backrooms are an example of a liminal space. Not all liminal spaces are Backrooms, but the Backrooms are one example. I think the weird feeling from the Backrooms probably comes from the fact that as children, or maybe even adults, we've all been in strange office buildings or places that didn't make sense to us at the time. Or you go behind the counter to an office and you're just seeing this whole other world, and it is very strange. I think that's what the Backrooms really capture, especially with the weird mundane aspect of office life, the curtains, the buzzing lights, etc. Anyway, since the original creation of the Backrooms on 4chan, there have been a variety of games, videos, and more, all covering the Backrooms and fleshing it out. Often they have very similar qualities. The Backrooms are infinite. Once you accidentally find your way into them, there's no way out, and often there is some sort of beast behind the curtain. This is not a pleasant place to be. It's not a place where humans are meant to be, and as I mentioned, it's a place beyond all understanding. Moving now to the phenomenal short film by Kane Pixels, we can see that it's presented in this sort of VHS retro format, which for some reason fits this aesthetic so well. I kind of wonder whether that's because a lot of people who consume this type of content were growing up when VHSs were popular. I'd like to speak to some older people and ask them whether this aesthetic gives them the same sort of feeling. I think that could be interesting, but anyway, what's really well done about this short film is that it captures the endless and absurd nature of the Backrooms so well. It's just repeated rooms, hallways, some which aren't even accessible, but which also plainly do not have any real function. Eventually, the cameraman finds some graffiti which tells him not to move, and we get our first glimpse, or first really good glimpse, at the monster which inhabits the Backrooms. To me, I find that the beast has always been the least interesting part of this creepypasta. It's one that I don't think hits on an emotional level or any sort of psychological level, other than the fact that it would be scary to be stuck in these back rooms with a terrifying monster. But I do really like the design in this short here. It doesn't make a sound of a predator, it's just like a wailing analog sound, which itself is even more disturbing. Anyway, fleeing, the cameraman continues through the back rooms. He finds several different room designs and eventually comes out into what really reminds me, funny enough, of the map boarding action from Halo CE, massive corridors overlooking a space. I think one of the best parts about the back rooms as an idea is that it's attempting to give some sort of interesting backstory to strange feelings that we've almost all felt. I think from that perspective, the back rooms work well, almost like a Matrix analog. In the Matrix, they have their own sort of back rooms, and I can imagine that maybe that's what the original poster on 4chan was intending for us to feel, and what this short film is intending for us to feel as well. The back rooms are a way to navigate our world in a very different way, or by a very different creature. They're somehow intrinsically connected to the real world, but also different. And at the very end, we do see that the camera no-clips out through the back rooms into the real world, presumably without the cameraman, just as he enters at the beginning without any real explanation. The creature itself we also get a look at the very end, and it also feels like something out of a childhood. To me, it looks like the real-life version of a glitch that would scare the hell out of you in an old N64 game or an old PlayStation game. Here's a little personal story to end the video off with before giving my final thoughts. When I was a kid, I had the Mission Impossible game for the N64. There was one level where you had to go into this, it was like a ballroom or a party, and there was a guy playing the piano. I doubt I'll ever be able to find a video or a reproduction of what happened ever, but the game glitched in a way that as a child I just did not understand. Now, there's a simple explanation for this, and as an adult I probably would have been frustrated, but as a child who only understood rigidity and thought that there was rules for everything that would always be followed, it was extremely creepy. The music didn't play properly. The man who played the piano wasn't in the position he should have been. He was moving strangely around the map. I don't even really remember what happened. All I remember is the feeling that I got, just that something was wrong. Sort of the same idea as the back rooms. There's some dark or strange undercurrent to the whole world you don't quite understand. To me, the monster is sort of a real life, in the video at least, version of those feelings, and that's why I think it works really well for the back rooms. So just in summary, this is a phenomenal phenomenal short film by Kane Pixels. It's incredible what this individual meant to do. How he actually made this, I'm not sure. It seems like it is a mix between animation and maybe live action camera movements. Either way, really spot on, and to me, it manages to capture the spirit of the Backrooms. Just my opinion though, what do you guys think? Do you like the idea of liminal spaces? Do you find them interesting? What's one that comes to your mind when I describe liminal spaces? And also, what do you think of the Backrooms? Is there some hidden purpose within the fiction, or is it just meant to attach a scary feeling to this sensation that a lot of us have experienced? Let me know all of that and more down in the comments. Again, if you like videos like this, please drop a like and let me know. I'll be happy to do more in the future. Till next time, guys, be safe, have a good one, and may the force be with you.